In the past 40 years, computers have changed dramatically. They have gone from something as bulky as the IBM PC to something as revolutionary as Apple's Mac, and finally, to something as small and innovative as the Raspberry Pi. Hi, my name is Sam, and this is my capstone presentation. Nowadays, computers are getting so big and expensive. Wouldn't it be so practical if there was something small and cheap? Well, that's when the Raspberry Pi comes into play. Raspberry Pis are mini palm-sized computers that can be used for multiple purposes. You can use a Raspberry Pi for everyday tasks, such as Google, Drive, Zoom, or you can use a Raspberry Pi to run code or perform AI tasks, and much more. As of June 15, 2021, there are 5 versions of the Raspberry Pi, version 0 through 4, ranging from $5 to $75. Each version is getting more and more fast and powerful. For example, a Raspberry Pi 0 might have trouble running Zoom, but a Raspberry Pi 4 could do it easily. Now that you know the basics of what a Raspberry Pi is, let's go over some cool things that you can do with it. For starters, you can use a Raspberry Pi to code or to learn to code. Or you can use your Raspberry Pi to make cool and useful things, like a camera doorbell, a robot, a wall-mounted Google Calendar, if you want, even block all ads in your house. These are just some cool projects you can do with the Raspberry Pi. If you'd like to see more things to do with the Raspberry Pi, please visit the website in my credits. Now let's talk about the history of the Raspberry Pi. The Raspberry Pi story started in 2006 with the first prototypes based off the BBC Micro, a much bigger and more expensive computer. 6 years later, in 2012, the first Raspberry Pi was created. The Raspberry Pi's main goal was to help young kids discover computers at a low cost, around $5. The Raspberry Pi was founded by 7 people: Eben Epton, David Barron, Alan Mycroft, Pete Lomas, Jack Ling, Rob Mullins, and Robert Mullins. Have you ever wondered where the name Raspberry Pi comes from? The name Raspberry Pi comes from the fruit pi, Raspberry Pi. This is because during the time that they were naming the Raspberry Pi, many other companies were naming their products and companies off fruit, such as apple and apricot. Now let's talk about the pros and cons of a Raspberry Pi. Pros of a Raspberry Pi. Some pros are: the Raspberry Pi is affordable, easy to use, great for small tasks, and it has low power consumption. Cons of a Raspberry Pi. Not very suitable for large tasks, not as fast as more expensive PCs or Macs, and finally, it uses microSD cards for storage, which could be cost prohibitive. Now, the next time someone asks you for a Raspberry Pi, you can say, "Would you like a fork or a screen to go with that?" For more information, please visit my blog.